Anyone make sure your phones and other devices are on silent. Do we have the live stream up and running? No? So if we could commence. Okay. Good evening, everyone, councillors, officers, committee members, people in attendance and people viewing online. Also welcome Councillor Boglis and Selkos, who are joining us online as well. My name's Councillor Christine Olaris. I'm the Darebin Mayor and the chairperson of tonight's meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you. This is to our tonight's planning committee meeting, and I declare the meeting open at 6:32 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed, as you've just heard. The recording will be available on the council's website as soon as practicable after the meeting. I would like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, who are the traditional owners of this land. I recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture, and pay my respects to elders past and present, and I affirm our commitment to treaty, to truth and to self-determination for First Nations communities. Welcome everyone, councillors, executive leadership team and officers who are joining us this evening. Councillor Demetriatis is an apology tonight. That means we have an even number of councillors, and as such, as a chair, I may be required to use a casting vote. And just to be really clear, if that happens, I want to let you all know up front that my casting vote will be the same as my deliberative vote. We just need to touch on disclosures of conflicts of interest. So if any councillor or staff member has a conflict of interest in relation to the matter on the agenda tonight, they need to disclose that conflict of interest and the nature of that conflict of interest. And then also any conflicts need to be declared immediately prior to the item being considered as well. So councillors and officers, are there any declarations of conflict of interest to be made? No. Okay, thank you. If during the course of the meeting you suddenly realise you've got a conflict, something comes up, please do at that point let us know. Okay. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. So councillors, can I please have a mover for the adoption of the minutes of the Planning Committee, which was held on the 11th of August 2025. Thank you, Councillor Arturi. That's moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jelly, thank you very much. I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Saw those two as well. Thank you. Just again want to touch on a matter before we move any further, which is relates to council's occ health and safety responsibilities. So council does have an occ health and safety responsibility to ensure that everyone attending tonight's meetings, in person or online, feels safe both physically and emotionally. So thank you everyone who's joined us this evening. I want to remind everyone in attendance to be respectful to each other and to maintain a civil tone when addressing the meeting. If anyone engages in conduct that is improper or disorderly, the chairperson, which is me, needs to direct that person to cease their conduct, and that person must comply with that direction. Okay, councillors, I will be permitting questions of officers prior to the commencement of debate on each item. If I think there's been sufficient questions asked, I'll exercise my right under the governance rules to limit questions and to ask the debate to commence. But before we continue, can I please request that you ensure your microphones remain off unless you're speaking. Okay, so we have item 5.1. This is application for a planning permit. It's D607 2023, which is 751 Plenty Road Reservoir. Have we got a motion that relates to this item? Councillor Jelly.
Mayor, could I ask a question quickly before we move to the motion? And just to confirm, I do have a motion that I'd like to put to the meeting.
We would normally pop to a motion and then ask questions, but yep, go ahead. Ask your question. We'll see if it makes sense at this point. Okay. Before we do that, we might actually get the officers to present on the item. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors and all in the galley. The matter being considered today concerns a proposal for the approval of a planning permit application at 751 Plenty Road Reservoir. The subject land is located along Plenty Road, approximately 135 metres northeast of the Tyler Street Activity Centre and then 675 metres southwest of the Summerhill Shopping Centre. The surrounding area has a mixed character with an apartment building directly adjoining the site to the north, mixed a single-storey detached dwelling, housing commission walk-up flats and commercial shop fronts. In terms of planning controls, the site is zoned residential growth zone, Schedule 1, and is affected by the design and development overlay, Schedule 17. Now, the residential growth zone encourages development of up to 4 stories, and it's intended that a site zoned in the residential growth zone deliver a far greater intensity of development compared to the general residential zone that is the most predominant zone in Darebin. As for the design and development overlay, when it was introduced into the Darebin planning scheme with council support through Amendment C173 in the 1st of June 2017, it sought to encourage high quality urban redevelopment that achieves higher residential densities. Therefore, when this application was originally lodged on the 5th of December in 2023 for the construction of 3 double-storey dwellings, council expressed concern of underdevelopment of the land. Through consulting with the applicant and discussions with council's urban designer and later urban design unit, the application was transformed to be an 11-dwelling development comprising of 2 townhouses and 9 apartments of 1 to 2 bedroom variety, and that is what is up for being proposed today. The proposal was designed to take advantage of the extra wide right-of-way that extends along the subject site's northern boundary for vehicle access and to retain a large significant tree on the subject land. After notification of the proposal, we received 11 objections. All objections were received from the occupants of a nearby apartment complex. Key grounds of the objections related to the use and safety implications of the proposed vehicle access via the right-of-way that connects from Plenty Road and extends along the subject site's northern boundary. This right-of-way is more than 10 metres in width and therefore can support 2-way movements of vehicle. I would note that this is highly unusual when compared to other right-of-ways within the municipality. As a low-speed environment, there were no concerns raised by Council's Transport Unit in regards to the safety and the use of the right-of-way. I further note that the right-of-way is open to all vehicular access of all adjoining properties. They have the right to use the right-of-way, as well as any member of the public can use the right-of-way for vehicular movement. Furthermore, the issue of safety in regards to the right-of-way and the intersection with Plenty Road, which was another concern raised by a lot of the objectors. Plenty Road is a part of the principal road network, therefore it's the responsibility of the Department of Transport and not council, and they manage and govern all safety concerns in regards to any intersections or any roads connecting to Plenty Road. And they were referred as part of this development application, and they had no objections to the proposal, including its use of the right-of-way. In terms of the proposal itself, when it comes to policy and the provisions of the Darebin planning scheme, it provides a well-resolved response to the requirements of the design and development overlay. While the proposal does seek some minor variations to res code, why these variations were sought kind of has in part due to the fact of the shape of the site being an unusually shaped triangle allotment, as well as the design and policy objectives to intensify the development of the land as it sought to increase the amount of housing, as well as the proposal sought to retain a large tree on the site. Those factors contributed to some variations to Res Code. However, these variations were considered appropriate, subject to some conditions, as well as being considered compliant with the objective of those standards. Furthermore, the proposal seeks a reduction in car parking, namely a reduction from 11 spaces to 9 being provided. This will result in 2 of the apartments not having a car parking space, but this reduction was considered an appropriate outcome considering the site's proximity to public transport, as well as rates of ownership among single one-bedroom units being approximately 0.79 cars per dwelling. And again, also the site has access to active transport routes. It's within walking distance of activity centres that contain services, as well as access to council's bicycle network. It's important to emphasise the willingness of the applicant to work with council's officers to redesign the proposal from what was originally an underdevelopment to what is one that aligns more with the objectives of the Plenty Road corridor and the objectives of the policy governing this particular land, including its zone and overlays. Therefore, accordingly, it is recommended to support the proposal and issue a notice of decision to grant the planning permit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now, councillors, give the opportunity to ask questions, and Councillor Charlie, I know you would like to ask one.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Can officers make any comment on, like, if we decided this evening to include a requirement for the bicycle parking that's included in the plans here to accommodate parking for cargo bikes, which is wider and longer, do we think the developer might contest that?
Thank you, Councillor. And through you, Mayor, I can say that the proposal includes a shared bicycle parking area. Now, there's no statutory requirement to provide on-site bicycle parking for residential developments less than 4 stories. However, this development does provide a shared bicycle parking area, and that area is quite sizable, and sizable enough that some of the bicycle parking can be adjusted to accommodate larger bicycles, including cargo bicycles.
Are there any other questions? No? Okay. As there's no questions, and we have no submitters to this item, so can I have a motion? Councillor Jelly.
Mayor, I'd like to move the motion that I circulated earlier today, which includes a point requiring that the bicycle parking area accommodate a charging point for electric bikes and accommodation of 2 cargo bike spaces, and that in particular is under point K.
Okay. All right, so do we have a seconder for this motion? Councillor O'Brien? Apologies, we've just got some tech issues with the cameras. Won't be a moment. We are adjourning for 2 minutes just to explain those on the screen can't see us, and it's a requirement that everyone can see each other in order for the vote to be counted. So 2-minute adjournment. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we're ready to go? Back in. All right, so welcome back, everyone. I was just about to ask the mover if they'd like to speak to this motion.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor. As we know, Darebin is facing a housing crisis. We have too many people who are struggling to find secure, affordable housing close to jobs, schools and services. And that's why I strongly support increasing housing supply in our municipality, especially in areas like Reservoir, where we can deliver well-designed, medium-density housing in walkable neighbourhoods that are well connected to public transport and local services. But as we build more homes, we must also ensure that they support the way that people want to live, that is, sustainably, affordably and actively. What we're seeing here in Darebin is a quiet revolution on our streets and also across Melbourne. Cargo bikes are becoming a preferred mode of transport for families and households. And in some households, cargo bikes are actually replacing the second car, which reduces emissions and makes our neighbourhoods more livable. But cargo bikes, for those who aren't necessarily familiar with them, are usually longer, sometimes wider than standard bikes. And so standard bicycle parking doesn't normally accommodate them or doesn't accommodate them terribly well. So if we want to support this shift to more active transport and more sustainable transport, we need to plan for it and we need to start planning for that now, especially in our residential growth zones where this development at 751 Plenty Road Reservoir is located. The location of this development has good access to public transport and also there are local shops, schools and services within a short bike ride. It's exactly the kind of place where we should be encouraging active transport. And as is noted in the report, which I highly recommend anybody who's interested in housing density has a good read of, car ownership rates in Reservoir are lower than average, than the Darebin average. The developer has requested a reduction in car parking, which we believe is not only justified, but is quite strategic in this context. Now, some objectors to this planning application have raised concerns about increased car movements in the right-of-way, but I believe that by encouraging cycling through the provision of secure, accessible bike parking that also accommodates cargo bikes, that this is a modest response to those concerns. Fewer cars and more bikes means less congestion, less noise and safer streets. It's a win for everyone. Darebin has long been a leader in climate action and sustainable transport, and this is our chance to extend that leadership into the way we design and approve multi-unit developments here in Darebin. Let's ensure that they include the infrastructure that supports how people move now and into the future, including by using cargo bikes. So here I call for you all now to make Darebin a model for sustainable, people-centred planning. I commend the motion to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Would the seconder like to speak? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few words. Just to speak in support of this new housing and thank the staff for all the valuable work that they've done in bringing it to us and maximising what we can get in this valuable space and reservoir. I wanted to draw attention just to the two items. One is which has been mentioned already, the bike parking, but also the fact that we're starting to see these examples come through now with changes at the state level. We're starting to see the developments come through with not being connected to gas. And that's such an important thing for us all moving forward. It means cleaner and healthier homes without indoor air pollution from cooking. It means lower bills over time and housing that's future-proofed as we shift to renewables. The good bike parking element is also just as important, as Councillor Jelly has outlined. If we want to move people to ride, housing has to make it safe and easy to store a bike. It's a simple, low-cost way to support active transport, cut emissions, and give residents affordable, healthy travel choices. And as someone who rides a cargo bike myself, I'm one of the smaller ones, I still often struggle to find parking. So I'm really glad to see that this is considered in this development, and thank you, Councillor Jelly, for bringing that forward as a provision. These details may all seem small in the context of a significant development, but ultimately these are the things that add up to big impacts for livability, affordability, and help us meet our climate emergency and our wellbeing commitments in this community. So thank you, and I commend this also.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak? Councillor Villela and then Councillor Salkos.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Normally, when it comes to decreasing parking, I have grave concerns because I live in an apartment block 100 metres, not even from a train station, and everyone drives. So car ownership is still very much a real thing, but I think in this circumstance, because the apartment is close to universities, to the University of La Trobe, and it's only in relation to one-bedroom apartments, which might suit students and make it affordable for people. I think it's justified, but I normally am very careful about supporting planning that looks at decreasing parking because people still drive even though they live close to a train station, and you can't force people to catch a train because the reality is in Melbourne our transport system is not very well connected, so people still have to drive to work. Anyway, so in relation to that, I just want to make that point, but I do commend I also am concerned that there's no 3-bedroom apartment, even though there's a shortage, but because the officers did explain, because of the irregular shape of the land, that it wasn't possible. So when you look at the feedback and the information and the context of the planning of the proposal, I'm happy to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Salkos.
Thanks, Mayor, and I just want to start by acknowledging the work that council officers have put into preparing this report for us and the efforts they've made to carefully consider this proposal. We all know the scale of the housing crisis and the need to build more homes, but as a council, we have the responsibility to listen to our community when changes are proposed in their neighbourhoods. Residents like Janet, Claire, Laura, Meredith, Jill, Heidi, Jade, and Adam all took time to raise objections on a wide range of issues and sent through emails of their concerns, which deserve to be heard. Councillors, the objections cover a range of important points, from safety concerns with the use of the right-of-way, vehicle safety when entering and exiting Plenty Road, overlooking and overshadowing, loss of natural light, parking pressures during construction and once the development is completed, risks to smell and odour from the proposed bin storage, and a reduction of car park spaces on the site from 11 to 9. These aren't minor matters, councillors. These are everyday quality of life issues that directly affect people who already live here. Once again, I wanted to thank the officers for the work that's gone into assessing this application. However, issues raised by residents cannot be ignored. At the end of the day, my role here is to represent my residents and make sure their voices are heard in the decision-making process, and that I represent them in this process. So councillors, for that reason, I would not be supporting this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Selkos. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Councillor Aturi.
Thanks, Mayor. I too received objections from residents in relation to the development, and I supported Councillor Selkos in allowing the application to be debated in the chamber this evening. I want to also note that the objections that Councillor Selkos is referring to, most of the 11 came, if not all the 11, most of, or if not all, came from the neighbouring apartment complex. There are a couple of issues that I required some more detail on before coming to my decision, and Councillor Selkos and the other councillors outlined some of those issues in their contributions. I want to thank officers for their detailed advice and responding to our questions on the application. In particular, the question that Councillor Villela raised in relation to the reduction of car parks, but as she noted, the reduction in this scenario is justified, and in that it is limited to the one-bedroom apartments. On the advice that we have received, on balance, the application, I believe, should be supported, and the application addresses the concerns raised by those residents in their objections. I also note that in speaking with residents more generally in the community, they have expressed general support for development and recognise the need for more housing, as some councillors have touched on. However, they have also indicated that their support is given on the proviso that any developments are appropriate. And obviously what is appropriate varies from application to application. But in this scenario, I believe that that balance has been struck, and so I will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aturi. Okay, if there's no further debate, I will put the item to the vote. So those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. It's Councillor Aturi, Councillor Jelly, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Sangster, Councillor Villela, Councillor O'Laris, Councillor Boglis. Those opposed, Councillor Selkos. Okay, so that's carried. How many of us are there? It's carried with just one against. Thank you. Just to be clear, we've issued a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to varied conditions. The Planning Committee has decided to vary the officer recommendation to support the application with the inclusion of the additions and varied conditions that were discussed. The decision is not final. An objector can appeal the decision, and the applicant can appeal any conditions at VCAT. The process of appeal is subject to timeframes detailed in the documentation, which will be sent to the objector and applicant. The Planning Committee has decided to support the application and issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to conditions. Okay, we now move on to other business. We have just one item of other business, which is scheduled VCAT applications. Do I have an officer who could just give us a very brief description of these?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The second report we're tabling this evening is, in fact, a summary of decisions made by the Victorian and Civil and Administrative Tribunal. This is a regular report that we table at each Planning Committee meeting. This particular report this evening provides a summary of 4 decisions that were made by the Tribunal since the previous Planning Committee meeting in August. What I would like to highlight is there's been 4 decisions made by the Tribunal. Of those 4, 3 have been upheld in line with the officer's recommendation, which shows the good work that we've been undertaking within the statutory unit. The report, in fact, highlights each decision and a summary, which can be read, and that's about the summary of this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have a motion that the general planning information be noted. Can I have a mover of that motion? Councillor Arturi. Can I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Sangster. Sorry, Councillor Selkos. I did see you, but a second later. I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. And I would say that's carried unanimously. So thank you. Councillors, there are no confidential reports to be considered this evening, so I will, and no other business, so I will declare the meeting closed at 7:04 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Good night to councillors, officers and members of the public. And we can now cease the live streaming. Thank you.